Good early afternoon. We are live. It's the Tuesday edition of the Blue Plate Special here from the financial district of Orange Beach, Alabama. We are high atop the skyscraper here in the financial district. We're on the second floor of the wharf. A lot of people pronounce it wharf. I prefer to pronounce the silent H. So to me, we reside at the wharf, which is also the home of the infamous escalator statues. We have 4 escalator statues here, and if you visit us, you definitely need to have a selfie taken on the escalator statues. They are absolutely beautiful. They're life-size. They look real. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. But get a selfie and post it to social media that you have visited the wharf and seen the escalator statues. And come in and see us too. Come in and see Sand Dollar Lifestyles. That's where they supply my t-shirts. So just like Botany 500 did Monty Hall, now Sand Dollar Lifestyle provides clothing for Mr. Andrews on Wisdom Harbor. Let's see, what else? What else do we have? We've got the largest Ferris wheel in the Southeast. That's the way it's built. Largest in the Southeast. I'm not sure Southeast what. Southeast United States, Southeast Alabama, even though we're in the southwest of Alabama. I don't know. But it's a pretty big Ferris wheel. Southern Grind coffee shop right below us. Always good to visit. And then there's an ice cream shop below us. I won't say their name because they're too expensive to visit. I mean, I'm just telling you. I was walking by there a couple of weeks ago and I thought, I want an ice cream cone. And so I went in and I said, just a cone of mint chocolate chip. And so the guy said, 1 scoop or 2? And I said, just 1 scoop. So as he's getting it, I go up to the register and I'm waiting. And I thought, well, there's people behind me. So I'm getting my money out. So I got out a $5 bill. And then I thought, it might be $5 and there'll be tax. And so I got a $1 bill and I'm waiting there with my $5 bill and my $1 bill. And he comes up and says, $11.54. $11.54 for a single scoop ice cream cone? And I told him, I said, buddy, if I hadn't already had you dig that out of there, I would let you keep it. But I'm going to go ahead and pay for it and just not come back. I can buy a half gallon of Bluebell ice cream for less than that. Unbelievable. But other than that, Orange Beach is great. Tammy Nance says she got to see the escalator statues this weekend. She was in town doing the narration for her new book. And her new book, as you can see the podcast that's out today, this morning, and find out all about Tammy's new book. It's called This Is Not the Life I Prayed For. So, and it's a great book. I've actually read the whole thing, and it is great. Bonnie Nix, you have your picture on the escalator statues with Kimberly Futrell. Martin Simmons, hey. Heather Olson, hello. You shared in Utah. Love the professional noticer today with Tammy Nance. Well, she just heard you write that and me say it. Dina Kilpatrick, you made it on time today. Hi, everybody. Team, shared. And also looking forward to reading Tammy's book. Dave Huco, hello. Katrina Hansen from Muskegon. Just listened to you and Tammy talk about her book, yeah? Well, I've got a couple of things. You guys keep saying hey, and I'll recognize you as you do. But this is just kind of a talking day. This is a conversation. We're not going to really do a show. Christy Woods, my sister. Hi, everyone. Sandy Dorf. What are you doing back there saying hi, SB? SB is like right there, right through that wall. So, but we're not going to do a show today. We're going to do a conversation. We're just going to have a conversation. We're just going to pretend we're in a living room and having a conversation. And I'll go first. Wendy Tucker Hot. Hi, Andy. Terry Rowland. Terry Rowland is the he's the goblin of Oklahoma. He's a big Boomer Sooner person. And so, when you're a Roll Tide person, you don't like friends from other states getting too uppity. And so this Boomer Sooner thing got to be reined in just a little bit. How'd y'all do this weekend? Anybody know how Oklahoma did? Nobody in the studio audience knows how Oklahoma did, Terry. Evidently, we don't. Did anybody's lives end because you don't know what? No, nobody seems to care, Terry. Now, as you know, Alabama beat Georgia. That was kind of okay. Yeah. We got some people yelling. I just kind of watched that game. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on them. But the one that was really interesting to me was Tennessee, Mississippi State. Not because they're the only two states in the nation with three double letters. Tennessee and Mississippi. No, Mississippi. So three double letters in each of those names. But their football fortunes are vastly different. Now, we kind of keep up with Mississippi State because Tommy, who is our shipping guru, Tommy is a Mississippi State guy, and my best friend Kevin Perkins is a Mississippi State guy. And one of my other best friends, Doug Terrison's on the board of directors of Mississippi State today. I just ran into Doug this morning at the dentist, by the way. Had my teeth cleaned. How's that look? I ran this by Doug, and he was like, "Yeah." See, here's what happened. They get to the end of regulation, and it's tied. Mississippi State and Tennessee had to come back to tie Mississippi State. Now, if you look at the two different football programs, Tennessee, they have a national championship in their past. They have 10-win seasons in their past. They have a tradition. And, they fill that 109,000 seat stadium and they've been in a lot of big ball games, and they've won a lot of big ball games. And so Tennessee has 5-star players. I mean, they have really, really good players. People leave the portal, people go into the portal to go to Tennessee. Now, then you have Mississippi State. Mississippi State has 3A players. They just do. They're just, talent-wise, they're not even on the same planet as Tennessee. But as we have talked before, culture can really come back, and a culture and momentum can elevate a performance. And so here's Mississippi State leading Tennessee most of the game, and they're playing so above their heads. Now Tennessee's making some mistakes. They're playing kind of below their line, but they get to the end of regulation and it's tied. And as soon as they declare overtime, I turned to the people in the room watching with me and I said, Tennessee is fixing to win this. Everybody's like, what? Why you say that after the way Mississippi State's played? No, Tennessee's about to win this game. Why do you think so? I said, very simple. Because of the tradition that they have, because of the experiences that they have, the culture that they have, what they know to be true, they can't get away from thinking about it. And what you believe affects your performance. And so Tennessee has won so many big games that Tennessee's going into this overtime going, hey, here we go. There's one more game. Here we go. You know what we got to do. We know what we got to do. Here we go. Come on. We got this. And Mississippi State, you could just see it. They're thinking, seriously? Are we fixing to lose this again? And then when Tennessee scored on the first play and now Tennessee has to match it, Tennessee scores on the first play, Mississippi State has to match it. Now you see Mississippi State going, here we go again. And sure enough, that's what happened. Hey, let me ask you this. Let me see if you can identify a picture. Matt, could you put that picture on the... You may know who that is? I'll give you a clue. It's a guy. Anybody? Anybody in the studio audience? Sonia, you know who that is?
I heard the lady out there say it.
Oh, she did? Somebody got it? Well, let me just tell you that is the person that has just been named to do the Super Bowl halftime show. That is Bad Bunny. And so the NFL has just announced that the drag show will do Super Bowl halftime. But there's more. That person only performs in Spanish. Every single word spoken from the stage and sung from the stage at Super Bowl halftime will be in Spanish from a guy in a dress. You know, it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like Cracker Barrel, you know, because it's like, are you trying to ruin things? Are you trying to ruin your brand? You know, I mean, even if you're on that side, I mean, even if every executive in the NFL office was transgender, you got to remember that's like less than 1% of the population. And you would think, okay, if I just want to keep my business profitable, I'm not just going to just shove that down everybody's throat. But no. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that it's. Are we still in September?
One more day.
So we are still in September. Okay, it's September. The Super Bowl is not until February, And this is what they have already decided. They got some time to think about it, but no, this is what they've already decided and announced. I'm just throwing that out there for you. Hey, I don't think that I've ever asked for anything from you guys. It's just not something that we do. I don't ask for donations for things, and so, but I'm going to ask today. And it's kind of a weird, specific donation. So, and if you can participate, great. If you want to, great. If you don't, just no big deal. But Matt and I were a week ago spent a day or an afternoon at Piedmont City High School in Piedmont City, Alabama. They are one of our Wisdom Harbor schools, and Piedmont City High School, they have, it's like I've got to find out. They said almost 70, so that would be a 69% poverty rate, 69% poverty rate in that school, which, to give you an idea, the poverty rates in public schools in America are figured by how many kids qualify for free lunch. And that is done by the parents and what their status is and all like that. The number one school system in Alabama is Mountain Brook. And Mountain Brook has a 0.2% poverty rate. The number two school system in Alabama is Vestavia Hills. They have a 0.3% poverty rate. Now, both those schools have about a 96-97% graduation rate. The number three school in Alabama is Trussville, and they have a less than 1% poverty rate and about a 96-97% graduation rate. Now, Piedmont City Schools has a 69% poverty rate, and in the last 5 years, each of the last 5 years, they've graduated 100%. And they are the number 4 school system in Alabama, according to testing. And so they make great use of Wisdom Harbor. And when we started working with them several years ago, it was like a miracle had occurred, and I didn't even know how it had happened. Because it was just like this miracle happened, and it took me a while to figure out what we did. But they went from under 100, under number 110, 115 something in the state, to number 4 in 1 year. And so they did this, we know now, by involving everybody, and by involving not just the teachers and the parents, but the cafeteria workers and the custodian and the fire station and the police station and the newspaper and the radio and the cafes in town and the churches in town, where all these people were getting this information. All these people. So we were creating conversations between adults and young people, which created accountability. And so one of the things we walked into that I just kind of, I didn't walk into Piedmont City High School looking for it. And so it took me about 30 minutes to realize I had not seen it. And I said to Matt, I said, do you see these kids here? It's like no thugs. I mean, there's no thugs. There's no obvious druggies. There were no goth people. There were, I mean, they kind of looked like we did back in the 60s and 70s. interested, conversational. We talked to the custodian who told us that, yes, she gets Wisdom Harbor and it helps her with conversations with these kids. And so, as you know, one of the things Wisdom Harbor does is we teach guitar lessons. Jimmy Yeary, who, by the way, won a Songwriter Award last week, and the week before that, he won Song of the Year at the Bluegrass Festival, and the song was Outrun the Rain. So if you want to look that up on YouTube, that's the song he wrote that won Song of the Year. But Jimmy, we've got, I don't know, 20-something guitar lessons on there, and so Piedmont City High School does that. They teach that. You know, the teacher is even using it. The music teacher is even, he can play some instruments and the piano, but he's never learned how to play guitar. So now he's learned how to play guitar through Wisdom Harbor. But he has some students that are way ahead of him. And he let us hear one of those the other day. That was very interesting. But when he got the students out, they were passing a couple of guitars around. And several questions. We found out that they only own 3 guitars in that school system. And they got a lot of students that want to play, but they have to stagger it instead of letting the whole class of 10 or 12 or whatever it is use their guitars and watch the video and do the same thing at the same time. And so I thought, surely we have some friends and people who have a guitar hanging around that they don't use anymore, or have one that, you know, they've gone past that one. They've gotten a new one, and, you know, they're probably not going to sell the other one, but they're just going to let it there gather dust. And so if you have somebody that you know that has an extra guitar, or if you have somebody that knows that wants to spend $200 on a new guitar, I mean, it got to be a great guitar, but somebody that can send a guitar, send it to Piedmont City High School, care of Jason Wright. We're putting this up on the screen at 750 Thomas Bible Memorial Highway in Piedmont, Alabama, 36272. And just tell them you heard about it from us and thought they could use the guitar. So anyway, hey, for the rest of the time, I'm always jotting down things that I think while I drive, or, you know, while I'm walking around or something. And sometimes they don't have a connection. They don't have anything that we're going to. But I write them down because I think, well, you know, put them in a book one day or something. And so I thought that I would just tell you what some of these are, okay? And because they're just really kind of odd thoughts. And here's one that I wrote fairly recently, and that was, rule writers are rarely rule breakers. Right? People who write the rules rarely break the rules, which is why I believe that rule breakers should write the rules, because rule breakers would write rules that nobody could break. Just a thought. And I also was watching football this past weekend, and I heard somebody say that such and such a team, they looked casual in their approach. And to me, casual is not an approach you want to have, whether you're working, whether you're parenting, whether you're playing football. Casual is not an approach you want, because the root word of casual, I think the root word of casualty is casual. I mean, casual comes from casualty. And so if you've got a casual approach, I think you're not far away from casualty. I am not crazy about New Orleans. I know a lot of people around here are. You know, there's so many people that are they just love New Orleans, love going over to New Orleans for the weekend. I don't. I mean, it's not worth the drive over and dealing with New Orleans to eat in the restaurants that I really do like. They really do have some great restaurants, but it's not worth staying there. To me, I know it is to some people, but somebody asked me to explain exactly what New Orleans was to me, and my answer is that New Orleans as a city is like a gracious lady with a dirty face. You know, wants to be a lady, pretends to be a lady, acts like a lady, you know, reputation as a lady, but has a dirty face. I think that parenting is a lot like tying a boat close to a dock, and the boat's going up and down. And in a relationship with a parent and a child, somebody has to be the dock. You know, somebody has to be stable. Just because they're going through crazy doesn't mean you have to be. And so in that, and again, these are things I've just thought. I don't really know where I'm going to use them or if I'm going to use them, but just I thought I would share them with you. I had somebody talk to me the other day about the hardest time in parenting. And I've heard people talk, oh, the hardest time in parenting is when they're toddlers, you know, when they're in everything. Got to watch them every second. And it's, oh, the hardest time is when they're preteens, you know, and they're getting those hormones. No, the hardest time is when they're teenagers. But I think the hardest time to have children, I won't say parent, because I don't think you're parenting adult children, but I think the hardest time to have children is when they're adults, because you got a ringside view. You can watch everything that's going on, but you can't say nothing. Your opinion is not desired. But if you're a parent, that means you have a child. Okay. But if you have a 28-year-old child running around, you really have a problem, because 28-year-olds have access to all kind of things children should not have access to. You will always be the mom or dad, but hope to God you won't always be the parent. I mean, if you find people that are having to parent a 28-year-old, it's a disaster waiting to happen, because 28-year-olds that need to be parented, they won't be. They just won't be. And the fact that they need to be, there was a disconnect somewhere. One of my friends said this. It was Sonny Brownlee said this, and when she said this is one of Polly's best friends, and when she said this, I said, ooh, be quiet. Don't say another word. I got to write this down. We're just talking about getting along with people, and, you know, just getting along with people you disagree with. And she said, don't mistake my silent smile for approval of what you're doing or agreement with what you're saying. I thought that was good. Let me do that again. Don't mistake my silent smile for approval of what you're doing or agreement with what you're saying. My silent smile just means I'm getting along. I'm getting along with you. I'm not gonna get in a fight with you. But just because I'm not fighting, don't think I agree with you. And I think, the guy who shot up the church in Michigan the other day because he hated Mormons. And once again, the Mormons' answer to that is to pray for them and to pray, and nobody's out in the streets rioting, tearing up their own buildings. Here's another one along the same lines of the don't think I'm agreeing with you. And I love this, and I heard this too. I didn't come up with this, but I heard this and wrote it down. It says, I don't care what story you are telling yourself, but I refuse to allow you to drag me into your delusion. That is really good. I don't really care what story you're telling yourself, but I refuse to allow you to drag me into your delusion. And boy, that goes in so many directions these days. I mean, if you talk to trees and you believe they talk back, okay, that's fine. But if now you're trying to pass a regulation in my town that I can't cut down or trim the trees in my own yard, now we got a problem. You're not going to drag me into this. And here's my last one. And I think, and the more I keep thinking about this, the more I think this is correct. And I thought this in response to dealing with AI and just, messing with that and seeing if I could get it mad at me. And I mean, which I have. I told Polly when I first got on AI and started messing with it and just seeing what it would do, I told Polly, I said, I guess I'm a polite person because I keep, anytime I want to do something, I say, please. And I can't sign off without saying thank you. And I don't know, nobody's supposed to be listening. And, but I have had this thing, like yesterday, I just showed Polly what this thing was doing. And I said, give me a list of the top 15 most famous people that have appeared on the Professional Noticer. So it makes this list. And so I just scanned the list and I said, this is the top 15. Where's Dave Ramsey? Not on the list. And then ChatGPT said, you're right. I'll go ahead and redo the list to include the top 15. So then it gives me a list that has Franklin Graham on it and has, who else? A couple of people like that. And so I said, why is Franklin Graham on this list? This is not, he's never appeared on the Professional Noticer. And it said, I was extrapolating the kind of guests that the Professional Noticer has, more conservative, some spiritual, musical guests and authors, and I thought he would be a good guest. Would you like me to explicitly list the top 15 most famous people that have appeared on the Professional Noticer? And I said, yes. And why has it taken me 3 conversations back and forth with you to get you to provide the very first thing I asked you to do? And it answered, you're absolutely right. You got me on that. I will now do so and so and so and so. So, but I didn't let it go. And I said, so why didn't you do what I asked you to do in the first place? And it said, I was just trying to get ahead of your thought process to try to da-da-da. I mean, and I kind of back and forth with it a little bit, that I get a little nervous. And I said, am I making you angry? Said, no, you're not making me angry. But it was really weird. Really weird. Yeah, Gloria Gaither made the cut. Gloria and Bill. But here's what I thought. And I might have to say this a couple of times for you to think through this. The absence of limitation is the death of creativity. Okay, think about a kid. Think about the things we played with, and I say we. If you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s, think about the things you played with when you were a kid. Sticks, apples, popsicle sticks, a can of Play-Doh. That was worth an afternoon. You get a net and a bucket and go to the creek for a day. Okay, and all the games you thought up and all the ways you thought up to use it, you were very creative. But then compare that with a kid who has every toy imaginable. That kid has an absence of limitation. There's no limits to this kid, to what this kid has. And that causes a death of creativity. All right, now if I apply that to the AI thing, the absence of limitation, if you have every bit of knowledge and every bit of ability at your fingertips, I mean, not just the knowledge to find out, but you got the ability to draw pictures. You've got the ability to sing. Now, I saw one the other day that you could talk into for 15 seconds and then choose the song, and it would have your voice singing this song with music, whether you actually carry a tune or not. Didn't really make any difference. And so it seems like they're coming up with so many ideas and so many ways to use this that there's no limitation. And without limitation, there's no reason to be creative. There's no reason to think. The only thought can be, let me just go to my office and click on AI. So, just something to think about when you're feeling creative. Well, that's it. That was just our conversation for the day. Don't forget the guitars for Piedmont City High School. And if you can be a part of that, let us know that you were. We'd appreciate it. And we're excited about getting that going for them. And we will talk to you Thursday. I think Monica's here, isn't she? We'll have a protocol conversation Thursday, so that'll be great. And so we'll see you then. Bye-bye.